On December 5th, 2024, the DCU will officially begin with what James Gunn has called an appetizer before the main meal that is Superman, that being Creature Commandos, a 7-episode animated series airing on Max that will focus on a monster-based version of the Suicide Squad. Initially, we got a full cast reveal around a year and a half ago, but ever since, more and more details about these characters as well as other characters appearing have all been revealed, and in this video I'll be breaking that down, explaining every character who has been confirmed to appear in Creature Commandos and everything we know about them as well as their comic book counterparts. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help me get to 100,000 subscribers. I am so close, and let's begin. Viola Davis returns for the 4th time in the role of Amanda Waller, but just to be clear, her portrayal in Suicide Squad is a different universe, so entirely not canon to the DCU, but her roles in the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are loose canon, meaning similar events happen in the DCU but not exactly the same. If something is mentioned to contradict an event in those projects, that particular thing didn't happen, or maybe happened differently. In Creature Commandos, Waller will be dealing with the aftermath of Peacemaker's finale. Having been exposed by her daughter Leota, Task Force X has been shut down by the higher-ups, so Waller compromises and creates Task Force M. Waller will later be given her own series, Waller, and will likely also appear before that in Peacemaker Season 2, and also potentially Superman. Steve Agee returns as John Economos, and like Waller, it's also his 4th appearance. One of those appearances is entirely not canon, and 2 of them are loose canon. Although with John Economos and probably also Waller, I don't think anything will be different between the DCEU and the DCU, at least with their canon appearances. Also following up on the events of Peacemaker's finale. In said finale, he broke his leg, which seems to be still broken, at least in this one shot we see of him, and also he went back to working at Belle Reve. John Economos will later also appear in Peacemaker Season 2 and Waller as parts of the main cast of both. Steve Agee is also providing his voice for another character in this series, maybe even multiple, although as of now it's unconfirmed who. It's entirely possible it'll simply just be random background characters. One event from the Suicide Squad that is certainly canon to the DCU is the death of Rick Flag at the hands of Peacemaker. Now, his father is being introduced, Rick Flag Sr., or General Flag, who will be voiced and then later played in Superman and Peacemaker Season 2 by Frank Grillo. He will be taking up the exact same role as his son, the de facto leader and only regular person on the task force. He's going to be one of the 3 leads of the series. There is a character in the comics named Rick Flag Sr., and he is Rick Flag's father, but I think for all intents and purposes, this is not an adaptation of that character, it's another adaptation of Rick Flag. And then because of all the flashbacks to origins we see in the trailer, I think it's safe to assume that Rick Flag Jr. will appear as well. Maybe as a kid, potentially a surprise appearance of Joel Kinnaman. It's not confirmed, but I think it's likely. Finally, for characters returning from the DCEU is Weasel, with Sean Gunn reprising his role. Also in the Suicide Squad, it's revealed that he killed, or at least is linked to the deaths of 27 kids. Except, it seems like the series will expand on that, with the trailer actually showing him befriending, and it seems like maybe trying to save that group of kids, plus maybe a few others, from a fire. And maybe it was all just a misunderstanding. On the bright side, maybe we'll see who captured him as well, which based on the comics would be Firestorm, and a lot of these scenes do seem to have fire in it. Firestorm has not been confirmed for the DCU at all though, so it's unlikely. Sean Gunn is also voicing G.I. Robot, a robot created during World War II, programmed to have just one desire: kill Nazis, something G.I. Robot will mention constantly. It seems like he also will very much want to befriend people, and will at the very least befriend Nina Mazursky, a character we'll get to soon. But with the Nazi thing, it's most likely for that tunnel vision that G.I. Robot wasn't continuously used by the US Army after World War II, when Nazis were no longer a threat. And I think it's likely that it was killing a neo-Nazi that landed him in Belle Reve. Maybe they could connect it to Peacemaker, his father, and that old group of neo-Nazis that were a threat during that season. It's weird that a robot is in prison and not just shut off, but maybe he is conscious, so the US government doesn't allow it. It considers it murder or something. In the comics, G.I. Robot was created by a man named Robert Crane, who was also the Golden Age Robot Man, a character who we could potentially see during G.I. Robot's flashback origins, but that hasn't been confirmed. What we will definitely see during those flashback origins is Easy Company. In the comics, Easy Company is a legendary unit during World War II that fought in Europe. G.I. Robot was not a member of that, it was just regular people. In the DCU, he will have been a member, and in a few shots from the trailer and from promotional images, we could get clear looks at Easy Company, which is made up of at least 10 members. Some of these characters are very easy to point out due to their distinct features, like Harold Shapiro aka Wildman, and Louis Kihihani aka Little Sure Shot. Some are a bit more difficult to pinpoint, but this is almost certainly Horace Canfield, aka Bulldozer, and this is almost certainly their leader, Franklin Rock, aka Sergeant Rock. There's a black guy with glasses who seems to be a combination of two different members. The black member, Jackie Johnson, and the glasses wearer, Four Eyes. Since there's no other glasses wearer and no other black guy, I'm assuming that he's a combination of the two. Others I'm not so sure about, but I'd guess that this is Samuel Gordon. He's Philip Mason, aka the Ice Cream Soldier. This is Long Round, and this is Short Round. Although again, I'm not certain of that, and I think a lot of these members who do not have distinct features are maybe just background soldiers and will never be named or even have a line, aside from cheering G.I. Robot. Bulldozer did have a line in the trailer, while every other member joined in cheering G.I. Robot, or the Tin Man as they refer to him, so technically they all have lines, but it's unconfirmed who voiced any of them. Zoe Chow voices Nina Mazursky, considered by Gunn to be one of the three leads of the show and the heart of the series. She's an amphibious woman, half fish, half human, only capable of breathing underwater, seems to be a bit of a pacifist, and maybe also a bit depressed. In the comics, Nina has a bit of a vague backstory, just having been born in some sort of location with a bunch of monsters, and simply having been born that way, before being adopted by Myron Mazursky. But I think they're gonna change that for the series. I think she's gonna be the actual daughter of Myron Mazursky, and maybe she was going to die as a baby, so her father, a genius scientist, experimented on her, spliced her DNA with a fish, or something like that, and turned her into a monster. She did seemingly go to a regular school though. Man, the DC universe really needs its own Professor X, huh? That father of hers seemingly also appears in the trailer as well. He will be voiced by Greg Henry. In the comics, Professor Mazursky, revealed to have the first name Myron, at least in the Flashpoint timeline, was the head scientist in charge of Project M, otherwise known as the Creature Commandos. Nina didn't exist until Flashpoint, and then also the New 52. And post-Flashpoint, Myron Mazursky has yet to be confirmed to even exist. Even before that, however, Professor Mazursky didn't really have that big of a role, so I wouldn't expect that big of a role in this series. Then again, this is written by James Gunn, so anything is possible when it comes to these very obscure characters. Alan Tudyk will voice at least two characters, one role that hasn't been confirmed yet and is likely to be very minor. The other is Dr. Phosphorus, who in the comics is known as Alexander Sartorius, a name that is likely to be kept given that he is a regular human prior to becoming what he is. Phosphorus will be unique in that his facial expressions never change. Instead, he shows emotion through the intensity of the fire on his head. In the trailers, we see him fighting Flag, which could be a small misunderstanding, or maybe he'll actually turn against the Commandos, seeing that he and Weasel are the only members who are villains in the comics. He's also somebody that I could definitely see surviving the brain bomb given his powers, so he could definitely turn against Waller at some point. Like I hoped, the show is going to show us some of Alex's backstory, everyone else's as well, but this is one that I'm particularly interested in. Dr. Phosphorus is an enemy of Batman, so if we see all the way up to his capture, we could potentially see Batman in this series. Likely just a shadow or a silhouette or something, but even that would be awesome, and I see no reason why they couldn't do it given that this is animation. His origin does seem very sympathetic, but he will not be a good person, rather a homicidal maniac who genuinely loves killing. We see him pre-Phosphorus playing with his daughter, and later post-Phosphorus doing the same. In the comics, Dr. Phosphorus has a daughter named Tinderbox, although she's a lot older and has powers that are similar to Dr. Phosphorus's, and is actually Princess Tinderbox, the princess of an underground society. I don't think any of that will be adapted. I think this is going to be just a regular person. It's going to be a loose adaptation of Tinderbox. She'll likely be given an actual human name, and it's unlikely that she'll ever become like her father. In fact, I would be surprised if she's still alive by the present day of this series. Dr. Phosphorus' origin story, as seen in the trailer, seems to be the same as the comics, as he's put through exposure to a reactor core by Rupert Thorne. Rupert Thorne is also a Batman villain. He's going to be played by Benjamin Davis, who looks like he could definitely play the character in live action and may very well do so in The Brave and the Bold. Rupert is usually used either as a corrupt politician, a mob boss, head of a smuggling ring, and as the creator of Dr. Phosphorus. Since we're on the topic of Batman villains, let's talk about the most prominent one confirmed for this series, Clayface, who is arguably also the most popular character in general appearing in this show, aside maybe from Amanda Waller. Without confirmation, without announcement, and with zero details added, Clayface randomly appeared in one shot of the Creature Commandos trailer fighting Rick Flag Sr., which is just about everything we know about this version of the character. There are many clay faces in the comics, and adaptations have used almost all of them, but I think unless otherwise specified, the default could be assumed to be Basil Carlo, a successful actor whose career was ruined after an accident disfigured his otherwise handsome face, later leading to an attempt to reconstruct his face, and another accident that dosed his entire body in a substance called Renu, turning him into Clayface. Earlier continuities have some much more complicated stories with many more clay faces, but I think they should stick to Carlo, and they should definitely also mention that he has a past with Batman. If nothing else, even if he doesn't appear in a silhouette or a shadow or something, I think Batman is basically confirmed to at least be mentioned in this series. Then between Clayface, Thorn, and Phosphorus, Creature Commandos will do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to exploring the history of the DCU's Batman, years, likely, before Batman actually appears. Getting back to the Creature Commandos, the Bride will be voiced by Indira Varma and was described by Gunn as his favorite character of the series and as one of the three leads alongside Nina Mazursky and Flag. The Bride is based on the Bride of Frankenstein, created by Victor Frankenstein, a character we will see in this series, to be a companion for his original creation, except with the DCU version, she is not at all interested in Frankenstein. In the comics, she has 6 arms, 4 of which were removed to simplify her design for ease of animation and hypothetical translation into live action. Frankenstein, given the first name Eric and voiced by David Harbour, will not be a prisoner of Belle Reve recruited to Task Force M. Instead, he will simply tag along with the goal of being close to who he sees as the love of his life, the Bride, who he's madly in love with. Along the way, a bromance brews between him and Rick Flag Sr. Based on the trailer, he's also a lot less heroic and a lot more violent than his comic counterpart. The Creature Commandos in general will be a departure from the comics. The only character appearing of the original members is Frankenstein, and he seems to be given the smallest role out of the members of the series that are at least on the poster. I don't think he'll be given his own flashback episode. I think his flashback episode will just be intertwined with the Bride's, but it's the Bride who will be given focus there. The story of the series seems to surround some sort of fictional country and its princess Ilana Rostovic, an original character voiced by Maria Bakalova, who in the trailer is attacked for whatever reason by Cersei. Also, for whatever reason, it seems like at least initially their primary mission is actually to kill Ilana. Obviously that's something that's going to change over the series, but it's interesting why they would need to do that, and how does that connect to Cersei. Maria Bakalova will also provide her voice for other characters. But what about Cersei? Well, she is voiced by Anya Shalatra, who will undoubtedly go on to play her in live action as well, even if she doesn't really look much like Anya. Cersei is a goddess and sorceress from Greek mythology and a Wonder Woman villain whose most unique power is that she turns people into animals. I'd say she's the most prominent Wonder Woman villain not yet used in a movie, and if they were to make a DCU Wonder Woman movie, she'd be my choice for the main villain role. It seems, however, that she will be the main villain of this season. From the trailer, we could see that Waller seemingly had a lot more options for the task force, but decided against many of them, at least for this particular mission. None of these characters have lines, none are named, and they're all, of course, fairly obscure. The main one is this big gorilla who the Bride beats on. This is Kongorilla. Originally, he was a man named William Glenmorgan, or Congo Bill. At some point, he acquired a magical ring that allowed him to switch consciousnesses with this magically enhanced golden gorilla named Kongorilla, a switch that became permanent after Bill's original body was killed while the gorilla's consciousness was inside of it. I doubt any of this backstory will be shown in the show, or at least for now even explored, but for anyone wondering why this gorilla speaks, that's why. He's also not a villain at all, he's a hero, at one point being a member of the Justice League. The Bride beat him pretty mercilessly, but I'm not 100% sure he's dead. If anything, actually I'd say that he's almost certainly not dead. They could always reveal he survived if they really want to. Either way is fine by me though, since Kongorilla is not really a character I care much about. Behind Kongorilla is Nosferata, an enemy of Superboy's, although I think in this world she could be an enemy of Superman's. She's a much more minor character, only having a handful of comic appearances, and also she's clearly a vampire, the result of some sort of experimentation. This green guy over here is Chemo, a monster of unknown origin, even in the comics, made entirely out of toxic chemicals and radioactive waste. He is the archenemy of the Metal Men, and is typically depicted as being far larger than he is here. Maybe this is what he looks like when he's starved of energy. This could very well be a hint towards the Metal Men's existence in the DCU, but not necessarily. Although I could definitely see James Gunn wanting to adapt the Metal Men and being fans of them even. Behind Chemo seems to be a mummy of some sorts, with his design most closely resembling a character named Kalis, a character with a bit over a dozen appearances in the comics and a member of the Creature Commandos. He's clearly a mummy and likely originates in ancient Egypt Egypt, but nothing is really known about him. Okay, so this is where I'm going to be getting a lot more speculative. As far as I can tell, there are no humanoid Cyclops ducks that exist in the DC universe. My best guess is that this is a reimagining of a character named Rubber Duck, the Plastic Man or Elongated Man equivalent of the Zoo Crew, which are the Justice League of a world populated by anthropomorphic animals led by Captain Carrot. He does look very different, being yellow instead of green, having just one eye, and generally much more sharp and less friendly features. But that's the best I got here. James Gunn has done things like this before, taking characters from other times or universes and placing them in the main universe in present day. TDK, for instance, from the Suicide Squad, is based on the Legion of Superheroes character Arm Fall-Off Boy. The Legion member Matter Eater Lad was mentioned on Peacemaker, as was Doll Man, reference to someone currently active, despite either being from the present day Earth X or World War II. All of this is to say that this might very well be a Prime Universe current day version of a character named Rubber Duck. Across from Rubber Duck is this demon guy who just basically looks like a gray version of Etrigan with the horns and similar fin ears. This made me think that maybe he is someone related to Etrigan, like his brother Vortigar or his father Belial, but both are yellow as well. I'm very not sure about this, but my best guess is that this is a redesigned Vortigar, Etrigan's brother, since his father being imprisoned here would be a little bit ridiculous, and maybe this is a setup for a future Etrigan appearance. This character standing in the background has a few distinct features like a pointy hood and a unique wheel-like shoulder accessory, but I do not recognize who this is, nor could I find a character who fits. Let me know in the comments if you do. A few more actors have been confirmed to be providing their voices for the series, unconfirmed who they're playing. This includes Michael Rooker, Linda Cardellini, and Peter Serafinowicz, who all appeared in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. There are a lot of characters I mentioned who don't have confirmed voice actors who they could potentially be playing, or maybe the characters they're playing have yet to be revealed. If I had to guess based on the characters I've mentioned, I'd say Michael Rooker is voicing Dr. Frankenstein, Linda Cardellini is voicing Nosferatu, and Peter Serafinowicz is Clayface. This is entirely speculation, but I think they could all fit as long as these characters do not end up appearing in live action, and I don't think they will, aside from Clayface, who I think will appear in live action, and that Peter is actually a pretty great casting for him. And that is about it. Every character confirmed for Creature Commandos, the first project in the DCU. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which one of these characters are you most anticipating to see? And what other DC characters who have yet to be confirmed do you think should appear? Thanks for watching.